What if your body isn't broken? What if it's simply asking for something different? Hi, I'm Cristina Clark. If you've been told your symptoms are just part of getting older, you're in the right place.
Hello, Dr. Boz. It is so awesome to have you today on the podcast. And I know that there may not be anyone who doesn't know who you are, but I would love for you to tell us who you are, what you do, and why we should listen to you.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I love, again, touching with some of the influencers and the folks that are having awesome experiences in the world of restoring their health. And if I had any part in that for your story, I mean, I'd like to celebrate that with you, but most importantly, just praise you for staying in the space and journeying through when things are going right and wrong. And when I go to introduce myself, I start with, well, I love the Lord. And I am a mother and a wife, and I am designed by God to teach people. It took me many years to be able to say that with the confidence that I do now, but it is my place where I really do feel that I'm doing what I've been called to do, which is take that complicated stuff. Remember that you are from a dynasty of hog farmers, and if they aren't going to understand what we're talking about, then I probably should start over. So I'm an internal medicine physician. I've been seeing patients for 25 years plus now, and I love the puzzles that are in internal medicine. My favorite organ to play with and to make sure is working correctly is the brain, and that is what drove me to be an expert in teaching an advanced ketogenic state. Is how do we get that Riley organ back on track? It's a puzzle. It's hard, but I like doing it.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dr. Boz. So I had the pleasure of meeting you at Hack Your Health, and you are such a beautiful, just beautiful human. So when I saw you, I was like, I have to talk to her. And you were so excited to meet me and also to help me with my podcast. You were like, absolutely, I love newbies. Let's go. Yeah. So that was fun. And it has been since November working to get you on the podcast. I'm so excited. So today almost didn't happen. And I was like, oh no, I'll be home. It's all going to go well. We're doing this thing. Thank you. I have so many questions, and I always like to think about who am I talking to? What is their expertise? How can I bring to the midlife woman, who's my audience, the information that they've been searching for and the truth? I'm also a believer, and I know that God designed our bodies to heal themselves. And I also believe that what you do is you simplify, you teach, and you allow people, but like in my space, women who are going through something that they've been told is unavoidable menopause, perimenopause, and aging. And they've been told that it's just what's wrong with them. And so I believe that God gave us a body that is so intelligent and so smart that it does things if we step back, get out of the way, and allow it to do its job. I wanted to talk to you about this advanced ketosis that you talk about. And I've watched many of your videos, and I've literally been like blown away about your whole sardine fast. So we'll talk about that too. If you could tell me, what is the real benefit of the deep ketogenic state? And how is it that people don't just naturally get there?
Wow, that's a great question. That's going to be a great platform for bouncing off several of these other questions that I can hear coming. First of all, I do think that our bodies are designed to heal. I don't think our bodies were designed for 2026. I think it were designed for about a couple hundred years ago when the ability to get food and to eat food was not the number one thought that everybody holds on to for, I don't know, starting at 7 probably in our culture today, maybe younger. And then they feed the brain in a way that it's responding to how we act, but that action has now hijacked us into a lane that to push the undo button, to restore health. Gosh, sometimes it's a really long road, Cristina. I'm an internist, so we start at puberty and take people to the grave, but we are the adult's physician for trying to figure out puzzles in medicine. And I remember the advent of really understanding how therapeutic ketosis has the mechanisms, has the physiology, has the endocrinology, all of these things in medicine that are a symphony that have to be in sync to repair, and how, oh boy, you can't get there without ketosis being there for several hours of the day. And so I'm like, I entered that discussion as a perimenopausal woman. So let's see, I'm 53 53. I'm 54 right now. And I started this in 2015. So that's whatever. I was in my early 40s probably, or mid 40s. And the weight had been on, the kids were born, the kids are in the season they're in. I'm carrying about 70 extra pounds that I don't need to, maybe 50 to 70, somewhere in there. Who looks at a scale when things aren't going that well? But it was clearly insulin resistant. I wouldn't have called myself that, but I'm learning about this ketogenic state and I don't want to tell anybody about it because it sounds a little crazy. And I thought, well, study it on yourself first, right? So I get these little ketone strips and I'm peeing on my ketones and trying to make this thing turn pink. And I'm like, well, dang, they must have gone bad in like 2 days because they go bad when you open. I'm like, I must have bought 4 packets of those things thinking either I'm screwed up or this diet is nuts or the strips are just really pathetic. And I can remember it was a Memorial weekend in the spring of 2015, where I am ruck packing around the city of Sioux Falls in honor of fallen soldiers. I fasted the night before, meaning I didn't use that word. I just said, we're not eating anything at the supper time. We're going to get up at 3:00 in the morning. The ruck pack started at like 4 in the morning and you had to hike like 26 miles. And I told myself, if I don't beat ketones by the end of this damn hike, I am swearing off this diet because I cannot believe it's this hard to be a ketone. I am like at least 3 months into trying to reverse my own something. I didn't have, good terms for it then. I wasn't willing to call myself insulin resistant, but it took till the end of that 26th mile and I come home and I'm so excited that I'm peeing ketones. My strip is pink. I finally did it. And that was my first clue that when things go wrong in medicine, the reversal part is a lot harder than people think. I was eating the right diet. I was eating way too much of it, way too late. All the things that I know now to help folks get better at, but also that if I was then so afraid of eating anything, like, okay, I got here. Now I don't want to, I wasn't even sure how to not screw it up to end up back in a season where if you're going to get some of the benefits that I was reading about in the cancer literature, in the metabolic health literature, in the perimenopausal stuff where insulin's the enemy, insulin is too high and slowly raising the throttle for 2 decades. I mean, I'm not abnormal. It was pretty average that the women that age have been they've been insulin resistant since the first pregnancy. And they probably had some overweight before that if they're American, meaning we just got insulin all over the place. So when you ask, what is it that is this advanced ketosis? The first part I point out is in order to get the benefits of a ketogenic diet, which have an abundance of repairing you, it is how our bodies were designed to be is you got ketones floating around more often than not, and that's hard for people to appreciate, and that you will screw it up by too extended of a time frame where you eat, or too processed of food, or too high a volume of food. And to me, the step one is do not underestimate how long this has been going on. And then how insulin resistant you are has to do with time, meaning how many years have you been fighting it, and some genetics. Like there are some families, my goodness, they make more insulin than a tribe of people. So to help them, it's even a more strict process to get them to do it.
Yeah.
So did I answer the question?
That's so good. Okay. I'm trying not to go in 80 directions. All right. There are women who are histamine intolerant. I happen to be one of them. I'm wondering for someone who's histamine intolerant, who's, said mast cell activation syndrome, you respond negatively to all things and they can only eat a specific red meat, can't be any conventional meat at all, can't be dry aged, all of that. But they wanted to do a sardine fast, but they were like, I think that's too high in histamine. What do they do instead? A butter fast?
Well, so let's just talk about your story of histamine, because I think there's probably more teaching in that than most people like to lean into. So can you tell the folks what your symptoms are when the histamine flares, and then what's the most likely guaranteed that's going to send me into a fit?
Okay. So when I started carnivore, I had gluten, dairy, soy, peanuts, and corn in 2010. I was told avoid them. And the naturopath I saw, she said, instead of doing allergy testing, let's just do an experiment. So we removed all of them. She said, listen, you have a leaky gut. And if you eat these foods, and gluten was the biggest one. She was like, this is what's going to happen. So for about 12 years, I avoided it like the plague, but I still got cross-contaminated. And then in 2022, went to Orlando for a big convention, went by myself, which was probably slightly stressful. While there, thought I got gluten contaminated, got back, and I literally had a reaction to everything I ate for 7 months. And it's like the gluten reaction, swelling, stabbing, pains out for, you thought 3 days, you thought you'd be better. It didn't happen. So then a friend in California, my bestie, he said, "You're like allergic to almost everything. You should look up Michaela Peterson." And he was plant-based at the time and is now carnivore. But he told me to look it up and I thought it was the weirdest thing ever. And I was like, carnivore, all meat. That sounds super dangerous. I was able to eat frozen burger patties, and that's still what I eat to this day. But I tried ground beef and pork chops in the first week, and I was sick with the cold symptoms for 3 weeks and then avoided all ground beef at that point. And then I've just eaten burger patties, and whenever I experiment, and it could be I had to freeze them after cooking them and then eat them immediately after, like I brought them out of the freezer. I'd heat them up and eat them, or I would have a histamine. So swelling is the main thing, mostly in the legs, but all over. And I've done all kinds of things, but I'm less histamine with those foods now. So I could cook them, put them in the fridge, pull them out later, or carry them with me. I don't have the same response, but I can only eat butter, eggs, egg yolks only that are pasture raised. So the burger patties are Simple Truth. I can eat either the conventional natural burgers or the grass fed at this point. And I can do Danger decaf coffee, 1 cup a day, and that's mold free. And so I just do butter. I do some tallow, but that's it. If I eat anything else, I spin out and swell up. So,
let's go back to how old are you?
I turned 53 on Wednesday, the 21st, actually Tuesday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
So we're similar age. So if you go back to when you didn't have any of these problems, how old were you when you remember just saying, eat whatever you want and not have any troubles?
So that was 16 years ago. 2010.
Okay.
It happened.
Right.
I went on a trip and I started responding negatively to Subs and Wendy's and all of that. So it just blew up.
So that's in your young 40s. So maybe in your mid 30s, you could reach back for a season that there might have been some symptoms creeping in that decade, but or in your mid 30s before that. And then have you had babies?
Yes. I have 2 sons. They're
Excellent.
30 and 24.
Nice. So during the pregnancies, you think the weight came off pretty easy afterwards, or did you struggle?
No. So I had always had weight issues, and I think I was diagnosed with thyroid issues probably 3 years ago. Okay. Hypothyroid, but I go in and out of hyper and hypo.
Yeah. So I would tell you, try not to get distracted with the thyroid. When the metabolism gets correct, the thyroid's going to work its way out. It can be, I have seen patients derail for years chasing thyroids when you should be focused on mitochondria. It's all going to work out, or mostly going to work out when you get this figured out. So you've got babies. They do lead to some weight that stuck around after babies. And so what am I doing? I'm looking at how old was she when the insulin resistance was mandatory in her body. The excess insulin was present. And then just to kind of be a little glib, do you think this reaction is how God designed your body?
No, not at all.
Right. Yeah. So what I like to point out is health is a long ways in the history books for you. And histamine reactions, I know the first patient that told me about a histamine reaction. And despite being very honored that he asked me to take care of his care, it was the governor of South Dakota. And his histamine reaction came from the sun. And he's like, I am allergic to the sun. And I'm like, you're crazy. Which is, of course, what people that have histamine reactions say. That doctor thinks I'm nuts. I'm like, okay. It just is that allergic to the sun, Bill, you are not allergic to the sun. But he was hell-bent that he was allergic to the sun. With that example, though, so go deep inside. Where does histamine come from? Comes from the mast cells. Why are the mast cells present in our bodies? They are there to be alerted, to alert the system to a foreign substance, to a substance that's not meant to be in this cell. It's a protective swelling process that keeps something out while the rest of the body comes along to say, hey, you little turkey, you don't belong here. Okay, so those cells are supposed to be there. And when they pile up and pile up and pile up, but don't get deployed, and you got a big crop around, they're supposed to downregulate. They're supposed to do some cleaning, meaning you got, let's say you have an army of 1,000 mastocytes in your body, and that's what you're supposed to have. But because you're triggering them and you're making a lot of them, but you're not able to sweep them away, you then have 10,000 of them. And so the second one of them deploys, how mast cells work is they tell their neighbors. So as soon as something triggers it, it will sparkle and then it recruits friends. And that's how, one of a mast cell overreaction is angioedema. If you've ever seen that, where the pictures on the internet, the lip is the size of a grapefruit. I mean, their eye is swollen shut, not like a little bit, like where the hell's the eyeball? I mean, it's really excess edema and swelling in a localized area because those little turkeys had a coup in that tissue and now it's set up. And so you say, well, how do you undo all this?
I've been looking for this answer. I'm really, really excited to hear this.
Right. So you got to get the mast cells to not be so damn twitchy. And you say your questions are very focused on food. And indeed, food happens to be where most of our foreign objects come into the body. They get exposed to the body. I don't like the word leaky gut, but everybody knows what it means. So I have just kind of acquiesced to say, all right, call it leaky gut, which means the permeability between foreign and body is broken. It's got a little moth-eaten process. You're letting things in and you're letting things out that you shouldn't let in. And when you have leaky gut, the answer isn't, keep eating the things that make it ugly, stop eating those things. Okay. But the answer also isn't, and never eat them again. Okay. Which I see this a lot in people with histamine reactions. They have a checklist that says, can't do it. And I believe you. I believe that you can't do it. But I want the image of where you're headed to be, that's not forever. You have to teach your body how to get back to that other place. And it does start with fixing the gut. That's the step one. When you look at slime layers in any part of your body, and I'll point out several areas where you have a slime layer. You have a slime layer on the inside of your mouth. You have a slime layer on the inside of your sinuses. You have a slime layer on the inside of your vagina. You have a slime layer on the inside of your colon. And all of these slime layers are built with the mechanism that there's no blood supply to it. It's this kind of gooey, snotty stuff that should stick around because there actually are proteins holding the snot in that slime in place. And when the proteins cross-link and set up a nice scaffolding to build your slime around, well, then that's when the body is able to protect itself from in the sinuses, in the throat, in the vagina, all of those slime layers. That when the gut isn't working right, somewhere way north inside that colon, like small intestines, that's like 6 feet from the top end, a good 12 feet from the bottom end, I mean, a long ways in there, your slime is not working right. And so then it becomes this hidden place deep inside the body where inflammation is riling. It just hurts the patient. And it's not like you can push on one spot and find it. It's deep in that gut. You say, okay, well, I want my gut to be fixed. Make me a good old slime layer. And so people will do things that spend a lot of money and they don't get in the right direction yet. Like, I'm very thankful your functional doctor said, we could get you allergy testing, or you could just do an experiment. Like, thank you. Just do the experiment. Your body's going to talk to you. It's going to tell you that we have awesome experiments in medicine, and thank God it really does help us when we can't find the answer. We can send you for a test and spend your money and really dive deep into that moment. But you've told me enough story already to say, all right, she has to fix this process of how do you get a better slime layer. Number one is a better slime layer. The other thing that I see lots of folks do is they poop in a cup or poop in a sample and they send it into this team. And then the team says, this is what bug is growing here. And this is how much of this you have. And here's how many organic metals you have. And here's how many, they have lots of reports. And then if you would put the patient on a sardine diet for a week and you'd send it in again, it would be a completely different report. And I pick sardines not because just like change the diet from something they aren't doing to something they are doing. And the response is so profound that it blows your mind. Like, all right, outside of seeing worms in your poop, let's just say that you got a leaky gut. And if we're going to fix this, it's going to come from a methodical process that you are on a food that doesn't trigger where you're at right now and that promotes the growth of that slime layer and the cross-linking of those proteins to hold the scaffolding, to hold that slime layer where it's supposed to be. That sounds lovely. How the heck do you do that? And the first place is you must be producing ketones while you sleep. So if you say, well, if I look at what Michaela Peterson did right, and God bless her, her parents loved her, but had all the right intentions, yet they cut off her ankle and put in a fake one when the girl was like 17 or something. Like, they went to such extremes to try and help. Not because they thought like their kid was faking or something, because it was so much pain and it was so prominent that she couldn't undo it. But now she lives with that mechanical ankle or whatever joint it was they replaced. And the history of the autoimmune disorder, that's gone. The autoimmune is gone. Just like a histamine reaction, it is a process that built up over the years, and you are in jail with how restricted your damn diet is. Exactly. And you say, well, I can't do that sardine diet. I'm like, okay, don't reach for sardines yet. But there are some things that I don't care what you're doing. You should be pricking your finger and making sure there's ketones in the morning. So when's the last time?
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Every day. I was on vacation, so I didn't take it with me, but every day I check that. And I also wanted to ask you, What should fasting insulin look like? What's a good number?
Right. Well, I like it to be 3 or 4 or 5, but I don't check fasting insulin anymore.
Okay.
I did it for many years, and if you go to Own Your Labs, you can check it and look at it. If you have a fasting insulin that is north of 10, your metabolic health needs some attention. Now, the higher above 10, the more it needs it. The downside, Cristina, that I ran into with insulin testing was if it was under 10, people thought they were safe. And the truth is, if you're in that cohort of patients where they haven't had anything to eat in 12 hours, we're doing a fasting insulin. So if it does sink back down to normal and we test them, then they think, I'm fine. And I'm like, do not do that. It is an approximator of how much insulin is produced over the day. It's way too expensive to check insulin every 5 minutes, but it's really easy for you to prick your finger and look at the 2 molecules that in conjunction approximate the amount of insulin your body needs. And instead of just measuring a one and done insulin level, it approximates how much insulin does Christina's body need to keep the blood sugars controlled at this season of her life. And when we look at a glucose and a ketone at the same time, we can approximate insulin. So that's by knowing you check your ketones in the morning. What's a typical, before vacation, like what's typical of your ketones in the morning?
They run between 0.5 and about 1. And if I do a butter fast, which I do that occasionally for a few days, it is between 2 and like 5.5.
Okay. So you have a quick ability to make ketones. That's the kind of season you need to heal a gut, is you need robust amount of ketones with a pretty well-controlled blood sugar. What does your blood sugar run in the mornings?
So a good one is in the 80s. When I'm on the butter fast, it can be like 59 sometimes, but its average is around 90 or 92, which I thought
totally tracks. That's exactly what I was expecting you to say. So you say, all right, so she's got the story that really fits, that she puts more glucose in her body, or she's allowing more glucose to hang out in that circulation than she probably should. Her insulin keeps it down. If she's really strict with her food, she can get it to look great. Okay, that's because she's only 53. Wait till she's 63. Wait till she's 73. It's a lot harder to do the longer this goes on without actually restoring it. So where I push paper, there's 2 things I would have you do to say, how do we heal her gut? Because that's where I would have you focus first, is saying, if nothing else, you cannot go forward until the gut is better. Some things I would have you track in your story would be, I would look at a vitamin D. Vitamin D is one of, right? I was like,
it's 30.
I guess I knew that,
right? Whatever that measurement, it's the low end, the very low end at like 30, I think.
So keep the number 50 in your brain, because that's what I would do. So again, leaky gut does 2 things. And so for all the medical people out there, the gut impermeability, which is what leaky gut is the back and forth of things that shouldn't be sorted. Your body wants to grab that vitamin D. It wants to keep it on the inside. It is so important to every cell. This is a hormone and a vitamin, one of the most unique molecules in our body that it does both of those things. And it wants to keep it on the inside. But in the leaky gut, people classically, with insulin resistance and this impermeability, they really have a tough time keeping that vitamin D between that, I would say 70 to 100. If it's north of 100 a little bit, don't worry about it. But like, you want it above 50 for sure. But to heal the gut, you got to have that high. Well, that's a catch-22, because you can't get it to go high until you fix the leaky gut, and the leaky gut can't. So it's this catch-22, right? But in the process of that, you are in a really good metabolic place that you have. When you push the throttle, you can make ketones. The glucose isn't hanging out at 110. It's in the 90s. Okay. I love it in the 80s because you're young. When that story evolves over the next couple of decades, if the gut is sealed, you can see it rebound really quickly from invaders. Right now, an invader comes in and it just whispers in your ear, and it's going to give you symptoms with a leaky gut. So number 1, I would check a vitamin D as you do this. Other things you can't, so vitamin D is probably just the easiest one to say, check that. If you already know that it's low, it's a great way for you to say, I would look at that every month and just say, give me 6 months of that in a row and watch what happens to your vitamin D. And as you do that, I would set up a schedule that says the goal for Cristina to reverse this histamine process is also going to help her with perimenopause. It's also going to help her with whatever other hormones she's trying to get to her brain and her body. So vitamin D, fat-based hormone, along with progesterone and estradiol and estrone and testosterone, all of those are fat-based cholesterol-derived molecules that when the insulin resistance is winning, she can't get it to her bones. She can't get it to her brain. Her sex drive goes to pot. The woman becomes more and more crippled. It's not just the histamine reaction that causes her to do this. It's now the collapse of all of this endocrine and hormonal process. So she's doing hard things. She's eating, what did you say, raw frozen patties? Or
No, they're not raw. They're cooked, but yeah.
They're cooked. Okay.
Yes.
So why do you freeze them?
Well, I don't have to do that anymore, but I would freeze them after I cook them so that I had them and I can just put them. I came to Hack Your Health with burger patties cooked. The egg yolks in there. I had everything with me. I did not eat anything when I was there.
So you remember the scene in When Harry Met Sally when she was trying to convince him that she wasn't high maintenance? I lost a bet with my husband long ago where he says, if I do this for you, you must admit that you're high maintenance. I'm like, Cristina, you're my kind of girl. Like, okay,
I'm extra. It's okay. I like it.
With that, restriction of food and that you've got it figured out. Okay, so you've got something that works, but you need a protocol that improves the gut biome first. And I'll tell you, it's not as deep as you think it is. So when you look at a couple of things that I would highly recommend, I would put down the lattice work of something that you can handle. And then I would continue to help your body build on that. So let's start with one thing. Have you ever, I know in carnivore, people have a season of life where it's a strict animal, and then sometimes they'll add in things like some don't eat egg yolks, others eat egg yolks. Have you ever done anything that's in the plant world since you started carnivore?
I tried avocados and apples, but my legs swell up and break out.
So here's what I would push you to do. I would push you to do these.
Okay.
It's an algae tablet. And I would start with one. So let me tell you why I would push for that. So in a carnivore place, I have lots of folks like Sean Baker that eat only carnivore, like Bella, they eat only carnivore, and they do so good. They're doing great. I will tell you, they come from a history of health that is not as advanced as what you're telling me. To get you back to the place where Sean Baker has a normal vitamin C and a normal testosterone and all these things with the meat that he eats, and he is great, but he is not digging out of a ditch that you are.
Exactly.
So to put your slime layer back in action, I will say I've seen nothing work better than some of these algae bits. So you can go to the Dr. Boz favorites and find the thingy there, and I think there's a little coupon code, but the point is you're going to start with just one. And I've had some people be allergic to it. That's why I'm trying to give you a little hedge here. The reason why I'm picking that is that scaffolding that I was talking about. You can build that when that mucin layer is healthy and it's refurbishing every day to keep it as plump and thick and dense as it needs to be. Great. But when you got holes in it, or, if I have Crohn's patients, not only are there holes in the slime layer, there's holes in the mucus layer all the way down to the blood vessels. They need help setting up that lattice work. And their lattice, their scaffolding keeps collapsing, especially in the tender areas. So I don't want a bunch of carbs in there because you're insulin resistant. That's going to trigger insulin production. When the insulin is high in somebody with a histamine response, they cannot build the scaffolding. The protein is broken. So it's a non-starter if we're not in a ketogenic state. Through the years, this is the one thing I've found, that there's a lot of chlorella, and this one is the chlorella one. It's called Recovery Bits. I would recommend that you start with one, and if you don't have a reaction, go to two. But what you're trying to get to is 20 a day. In all of that, there's still only like one carbohydrate or something. So it's still the polyphenol, which is the actual source of what you need to cross-link that scaffolding, as well as stimulate the production of the right type of bacteria to begin. That I have lots of patients spend a ton of money trying to get the right kind of antimicrobials into their gut. But if that production of stool is still in a pattern that whatever bug is supposed to be living there, that you need the scaffolding first to plant the seeds. I'm all about planting the seeds when the gut is working right. But the first step is, can you tolerate 20 of these every morning? I wouldn't put it at night. I would put it in the morning. You're again looking for the nighttime season to be, can you get those ketones to rise while you sleep? Because what's happening to the gut while you sleep is it's resting. That the distance between the last bite of food and sunrise, something I talk about a lot on my channel, is got to keep that protected when you're sick. Sean Baker doesn't need to keep that protected. My people need to keep that protected. They've been sick for a long time. And it just takes a whisper to have enough insulin response come out of the place where it shouldn't be coming out at this point, but it is. That's the pathology. And when you do that over and over again, it breaks down that scaffolding, and now we're back to square one. So chlorella would be the first thing I would get you on. The second, have you ever had a season where you were able to keep those ketones at like 1.1 to 2.5 for a month? First thing in the morning. Yeah. It's hard. That's where I'm like, okay, so first thing is don't add any different foods. You've got the foods that you think you can tolerate. Keep the butter and the tallow or whatever isn't causing you a reaction. I would be adding fasting to the point of 72 hours once a week. Where I would heal the gut.
Okay.
Have you ever fasted?
I have fasted. I used to do intermittent fasting, and then I would do 2 to 3 days fasting. But when I came into carnivore with the histamine, I went down the rabbit hole with the hypothyroid and chased that for a while. And now I cannot go off NDT because I go in the ditch. But at this point, I had nodules that they just found and they wanted to biopsy. And I was like, no, thank you. And so what we did was I focused on getting very, very serious about making sure I had enough fat. I always ate at least 30 grams more of fat than I do protein. But I did muscle wasting for a while. So now I'm like, do I go high protein and high fat? I'm just not sure how that works for me.
Right.
And I seem to put on weight. It doesn't matter what it is. I just seem to put on weight. So yeah.
There's 2 other things I'd be pushing. So how did you document the muscle wasting? What made you say that?
I would notice that in the morning when I got up, I'd be in the kitchen with a tank top on. You could visibly see what I looked like before in November and now. And my arms were touching my side when I had my arm up. And I was like, what's that? What happened? And then, so then I just noticed that it just got looser and looser, even though I was exercising still. So I was like, this is super interesting. And you cannot get a male doctor to listen to you about this. They think that you're getting fat and that you aren't muscle wasting. So I went to the heart doctor to get an echocardiogram because I was like, if I'm muscle wasting, that's a muscle. So he kind of gaslit me. And then I couldn't remember his name when I had to go to other doctors because I was like, it was not impressive. So needless to say, I'm trying to get a CAC, but I'm also learning that that may not be a good measure of anything because it doesn't prevent a heart attack. It just is numbers. So yeah.
You'll get a body scan for bone density and just mark it in time. And that's where I would say start here. And then know this fact that your body has a protector to break down muscle. When there are ketones in circulation, if the muscle is alive and active, if the protein is alive and active, it will not use that until all the other resources have been used. That includes your fat. So to protect muscles, the answer is ketosis. It's a fuel that you're running around your system, right? But it's also a signaling agent that says these cells are off limit. And you think of our ancestors, there's no meal on the prairies for the next 2 weeks. I need the muscles to work. When ketones are in circulation, the muscles still work and it shoves the fat cells to the front of the line saying you're going to use those first. While saying also, if there's a dirty old protein hanging out in your earwax, I'm going to go over there and recycle it and use it. Like the protein restoring of autophagy is also linked to the level of ketones. And which brings us back to how do we do this in somebody who's been as sick as you? So step 1 is, okay, eating should be in the morning. If I were you, I would not eat after 1 o'clock in the afternoon, evening to say,
it's like 2 to 4 was my normal, and sometimes it's just 2. But the other thing that's very curious for me is how much protein.
Don't look at that. So know what are your ketones in the morning?
Okay.
The chemistry comes so much further before you start worrying. When you're carnivore, there's plenty of protein around when the body can absorb it and not poop it out because you got this leaky gut, haunting you. You're going to get there. Your body is designed to fix this, but you must be in a ketogenic state first. Quit distracting with all those other questions. Right. And then, so the next part is adding fasting isn't something you do once in a lifetime. Adding fasting is something you do to say, you got a serious problem. In order to fix serious problems, it's going to take some serious commitment. You won't, and I'm saying this with confidence, hearing your story and the length of time, you will not repair that gut in under 48 hours of fasting. It is going to be between 48 and 72 hours of fasting that you are starting to repair it. And then, of course, you can't fast forever. You look at 90% of the benefits that we get from fasting happen by that 72nd hour. People start ticking into that, I'm going to fast for 4 days. I'm going to fast for 5 days. You're starting to play with things that you're not healthy enough for. Don't do that. It's not that you can't do it, but I wouldn't do that in your story. I also wouldn't say, wake up tomorrow and do a 72-hour fast. I would do a 36-hour fast, do a couple of those, advance to a 48-hour fast. It's a skill set that is your mind, your social life, your spiritual life, all are on this journey too. And if you just say it's just a diet thing, you're fooling yourself. This is a human experience that's been done for every culture across the globe, as long as we can go back, that you don't just not eat because you don't like the food. You have to embrace this is a contract with your friends and family. It's also a story that God has given us the peace of understanding, the enlightenment that gets richer when we say, I'm going to deny this thing that's really fun, which is eating. And I'm going to focus on how he designed me. What am I using that gift? Am I committed in the service that I said I was, but maybe I haven't checked in for a while. So looking at that full immersive experience, that fasting isn't a curse, but it is going to be a place where I'd be looking at fasting. Now, we have a badge of honor on the Dr. Boz team where they get 8 consecutive 72-hour fasts every week, and it's in a row. So let me tell you what happens with 8. So you get to about 5 weeks in a row where 72-hour, they made it, 72-hour, they made it, 72-hour, they made it, 70. If they're going along there and they're doing this thing, which I've done many times, which is at the end of 72 hours and they celebrate. They didn't have the right mindset. And they'll get to about week 5 or 6 when it's somebody's birthday, it's Christmas. The excuse is easy to excuse, but it's also derailed because the roots of why you're doing it and what that commitment was for have been tainted somewhere. And that skill set of restoring the purity of why you're doing this, it's a learned skill. It's a maturity. You can't just like, here's a prescription pad. You're going to go do this. It is the process of really getting good at that. So by the time I see somebody saying, and I've said to my team, we should have like coins. You know how you get coins in the military or we should have coins for 72 hours in a row because it is such a gift that you now have a skill set in your toolbox that you can use. And Cristina, you're gonna need it to fix a histamine problem. Michaela Peterson's ability to reverse those medical problems, to reverse that autoimmune disorder, she was 18 or she was like 20, whatever she was when she started. Her body was young. Mm-hmm. It hadn't had babies yet. I don't think. Anyway, the point I'm saying is the patient that can do this, flippantly with just a carnivore diet is not you, and it's not me. Mm-hmm. Right. So in order to reverse these problems, it is to not put all the rules in place tomorrow. You're going to wake up, you're going to have energy bits you're going to have, start not eating after 2 o'clock, and then you're going to add fasting next week. That's a lot. I would tell you slow, find an accountability partner that will do it with you. And then know that you don't start out with the first 72-hour fast saying this is the first of 8. It's the first. And then you say, how did I do it? Maybe I can do a 48 after that. Finding a really stable rhythm before you reach for the honor of 8 in a row. I just think I'll put that framework out there to say, be reasonable on it. The other thing that I have had be a little improvement in escalation for people who've had leaky gut and then they have histamine responses. And now we're saying you heal when you are in a ketogenic state and you're not abnormal to say most of my ketones are like 0.5 to 1, not 1 to 2, which is what I want them to be in the morning. Almost always, my sister including, had a really tough injury that she needed to stay in ketosis for a year. And she's 50 years old. She's got all the same things we have. She had to take the MCT in order to keep her in ketosis. Mm-hmm. Again, easy, cheap, safe. It is out of coconut, so I don't know what that does to your carnivore rules. But the C8, C10, I have capsules of that I sell too. And I would prescribe them to my patients by saying, I want you to, bite the capsule and swallow one and watch to see what that does to yourself. And so obviously I'm looking for a reaction. I'm looking for an allergy. I'm looking for anything that makes it. And then know that if one doesn't work, it doesn't mean you swear off this oil. This is the cheapest long-acting hack for somebody who's going to have to stay in ketosis for a while to fix mm-hmm. this. Without MCT, I see it really difficult when they're entering in the season that you're entering. The other part that I know we're running out of time here, but I want to give you one more little nugget of what I see over the last 5 years. So if you had asked me this 2 years ago, I would have stopped the conversation there saying you're going to need some medium chain triglycerides to keep you in ketosis because you're a perimenopausal woman with that long history of insulin resistance. Your gut isn't absorbing things as well as it should. That MCT also helps to repair that. But more importantly, it pushes you into the chemistry of ketosis. And you might have to take 6 to 12 capsules 2 or 3 times a day. Our dementia patients took 45 grams a day. I'm just saying, do not think that taking one is the answer. You have to get it. How much does Cristina have to take? Mm-hmm. I don't know. What are your numbers in the morning? Right. And when you're able to keep those ketones in that 1 to 2 range, now you're healing. Now you're healing the gut. Now we can start the timer. And it might take you like 2 or 3 weeks to get all these ducks in a row to get you in the season where okay, now we're firing. And we've got ketones on board. We've got MCT to help us out whenever it dips down. We've got energy bits so that her lattice work and her scaffolding and her biome. And she's waking up in the morning with ketones. The glucose will come down over time. And then there is the GLP-1s. Okay. So people have, especially in the world of medicine, and I'm in this world of medicine, and there's, it must be awful because it comes from medicine. But if I look at what happens in a patient with a ketogenic, they're in ketosis, but they're not in enough ketosis to heal. You're going to smolder with this histamine problem until that gut lining is sealed again. And you quit leaking in and out, and you'll know because your vitamin D is going to go up. Month after month, it's going to slowly rise. That's my best predictor of, you don't want to have diarrhea. So if you're having diarrhea, you're probably not fixing your gut biome. But the rise of your vitamin D without doing anything different than you're doing is the best long-term signal. Am I increasing my slime layer in my gut? And if I look at the patients who, they just don't have enough years, not enough trips around the sun to heal these things. And especially they're in stories like yours, Cristina, where they are keto adjacent, meaning you have ketones, but do you have enough ketones around while you're sleeping to heal the advanced problem that's in you? And I would say, no, you are not there yet. You're going to sputter. But you're going to be looking at me at 63 years old saying, I still pack, this food menu that's so restrictive because my body can't handle it. You're allergic to the sun. Yeah.
Okay. So I have to say that I have met with and I know other carnivore people, doctors and medical experts in the space who are like, you can't fast because it's too much stress and causes your cortisol go up that will then affect your thyroid. So yes. It's very interesting.
I would tell you, you told me all I needed to hear, which is when you do whatever you said you did, that you can get your ketones to bounce. A metabolism that's failing does not bounce their ketones. You didn't fast for a week to get those ketones to go up. You did whatever you did, a butter fast.
3 days, yeah. 3-day butter fast.
And you're like, well, keep track. I wouldn't want to hurt you. I wouldn't want that thyroid to burn out. So how do you know? Within 48 hours, her glucose went down and her ketones went up. That's not a cortisol rise. Sure, cortisol is responding to you as in life, but for heaven's sakes, monitor it. And I'm telling you that metabolic burst of ketones rising and glucose declining, that is not a thyroid storm or cortisol or adrenal fatigue. That is metabolisms getting their exercise and fixing.
Okay, last thing. What do you think of spirulina?
Yes, that's the other one that goes with this is chlorella and spirulina. The key thing, I know they get all excited about which kind of algae it is. The thing that I am looking at is they both have polyphenols in them, which is what the lattice work is made out of. I think the chlorella works a little better, but I don't get that excited about either one. They're both lovely, and the lady who sells these swears there's a big difference between them, and I let her be the expert in that, so you can go listen to what she says. In my patients, I start them out with chlorella. They end up on both of them eventually because there's a sale or something. And I don't notice a difference. They don't notice a difference. And their poop doesn't notice a difference.
So where can we find you?
Well, I appear to be searchable anything with sardines recently, but you should really look for Dr. Boz. Again, you know what I am pushing patients to do or pushing followers to do is we have been massively successful on the YouTube channel. We have people that tune in every Tuesday when I go live, which is my commitment to saying, am I in a community? If you're missing a community, it's not the perfect one, but it's a place to begin. So we go live every Tuesday at 4:00 Eastern time. But then I really have been trying to fill the vacuum of people wanting to get educated on this as free as I can get away with, which is on Substack. Again, YouTube, it is really difficult for them to search. Like this little thing we just talked about where I'm like, in the gut biome. If you would try to find that conversation in an hour-long YouTube video, they're not going to succeed. Even every good AI in there is going to need a whole bunch of thinking to find it. But in Substack, it's a much easier place as we start to build out the curriculum and what we talk about on that platform. It's so much more searchable for people that we hope they're less frustrated with. I can't find where you said that in 2022.
Exactly. YouTube's a little different. Thank you so much for just your kindness and being willing to show up today. I cannot wait to go to Substack and check it out. So
yeah, well, you're going to have to ask me back on the show in about 6 months to hear how you're doing.
Okay, I will. I will keep in touch. Thank you so much.
That's awesome. God bless you, and thanks for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Your body isn't working against you. It's trying to tell you something. If you're ready to better understand those signals, keep learning by watching this next video. Subscribe and join me every Wednesday. I'll see you in the next video.